Today's episode is sponsored by Future State Media, experts in off-Amazon traffic for Amazon sellers. Future State Media will build you a custom-made website to deliver sales for you on Amazon. Built to grab traffic from search engines and social media, your site can be used as a secret weapon for launching products on Amazon or just to stabilize your Amazon sales. It means you can also build an email list on autopilot. Go to futurestatemedia.com for your free guide to Google SEO for Amazon sellers today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 10K Collective podcast, the place to be for 6, 7, 8-figure Amazon sellers, a subset of the amazing FBA podcast. When I say for Amazon sellers today, we're going to think a little bit broader than that. We're talking to John Cavendish we were from Seller Candy, still is from Seller Candy, but this episode we're going to talk about something different that John's been cooking up, and it's just slightly different. So John, first of all, welcome back to the show. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. And just for anyone else who's actually watching, the reason we're wearing the same t-shirt is we finished 5 minutes ago on the Seller Candy recording.
Excellent.
And thanks for having me back.
Yeah, my pleasure. So Seller Candy is your sort of mini agency, I suppose, that works with, tell me what the difference is between all your different businesses that you're involved in, because I'm slightly confused, so we better clarify it for the listeners and watchers as well.
So Seller Candy is a partnership between me and my friend Brian Patterson, who used to run a Amazon arbitrage lead generation business. So he sold his business a little while ago, and we were looking at something to work on together. And this is an idea I've been throwing around for the last 6 months with Seller Candy. So, now we're not pitching it. I'll tell you a bit about the backstory of it. And I just didn't have the bandwidth to work on this idea. I thought it was an awesome idea because, everyone needs it. All of our clients for our big agency, Ecom DNA, needed it at the time because it was basically a way of, getting all the small stuff off your plate. So, you wouldn't work for $500 a month. So why would you do all these little tasks, which you can pay someone else $500 a month for? So, Brian manages that. I do the marketing, and I work on marketing and webinars and podcast appearances for it. And yeah, at the time I was working on Ecom DNA, which was my full service Amazon marketing agency. We charge $3,500 to $8,000 a month to professionally operate Amazon accounts for bigger businesses. While running this business, I realized that although, I'm good at Amazon operations, I didn't want to be the ops guy for this business. I enjoyed connecting with people. I enjoyed selling. And we became very good. We started closing $100K a month worth of business for this agency. But I didn't like the delivery part. And I didn't have a delivery partner on this business. So what I decided was I was going to move out of this, still have an agency, but move to having an agency where we support other businesses with their sales systems. And we get them the same kind of results that we got in Ecom DNA. So taking it from, month to month, making a small sale, getting a little bit of work, and then reselling them the next month on some more work, into selling a strategy. So, we're going to come in, we're going to work with you, we're your partner. It's a 12-month contract. It's at real money. And it, gives you as an agency owner way more confidence of where the income is coming from. So it's not like, you don't have to worry every month anymore. You're signing somebody up. It's 12 months. It's it's a good chunk of change. You're going to deliver a really good result because you've put the plan into place and they know you're there for the long haul. So that's what we do is we, help agency owners, not just Amazon agency owners. We've actually been working with many different agencies, email marketing, Shopify, anything really, to sort their sales system out and make it so that they can make more money and have less stress really. Because, selling month to month is super stressful.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, having had a bit of a flavor of some of this stuff, I mean, I don't really run an agency in any kind of scale, but even just selling mentoring or masterminds, again, if you can get people to sign up for something and commit up front, it's a lot less stressful. I mean, one of the stressful things, we can talk about this, but if you have certain client segments, they have a tendency to sort of flake off very swiftly, whereas others stick around for ages. And I guess it's a question of getting the right price point and the value to them and all that stuff. But so just to clarify for myself and to make sure everyone listening is clear about this, is you've actually got 3 businesses you're involved in. Seller Candy, which we just talked about, which does the sort of for $500 a month, takes a lot of the annoying little itty bitty tasks off people's hands. The Ecom DNA agency, which just operates the entire Amazon accounts on behalf of people. And then from that learning, you've created your new business, which is to help people create a similar business, right? Is that a fair summary?
So, it's a fair summary. Actually, what I've done with Ecom DNA is I partnered with another agency. So I partner with an agency who
Okay.
is far better at operations than me,
Okay.
and they are delivering the operations now for Ecom DNA. So it's
Right.
become more of a sales system. What
Right.
that has done and to become, because we can sell. And also, I obviously have my FBA business. So
Right.
my old FBA business has been running for the last 5 years. We do around 7 figures in revenue, and it's kind of on autopilot. That
Nice. Wow. You really are a busy man, but yet you've got time to appear on a podcast, which is always good sign that
was the
somebody's
fun
doing
bit,
it well.
isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Right. So FBA business on autopilot. Amazing. So you're obviously very good at creating partnerships and setting stuff up on autopilot. So the questions I've got here from our chat before the show was, what have you learned and what is the secret to running an agency? I'm like, that's kind of a dumb question. That's definitely comes from me, but let me ask the dumb question because it's fun. What is the secret to running an agency? The secret that you'll reveal in our 5-part webinar series. I'm joking, by the way. I'm joking, but what is the secret to running an agency?
That was a great question, and we talked about that before. And I just said sales.
Right.
Like sales. Sales is the secret for an agency. It's not sexy, and when you go into an agency, especially as an operator, you think it's amazing operations, and obviously amazing operations give you longevity. But an agency is a sales system. Like, we're a sales-driven organization, and we have to be.
That's makes sense in a way, but I mean it's quite kind of alarmingly direct. I like it. So the fact that so
Well,
tell
that's
me a
me
bit
actually.
more
No, I'm
about this. Yeah.
alarmingly direct, which is the problem sometimes.
No, that's great. I mean, I think alarmingly direct is good, but what's the secret? Sales. Okay, done then. Well, let's go home and all count our millions.
Make
So,
some sales.
yeah,
Yeah,
how do we
super
how?
easy, isn't it? Yeah.
So okay, what's the secret to sales then? That's the obvious
Mm.
next question.
Yeah. So, I mean, the secret to sales is that there isn't a secret to sales. It's a numbers game. And being a numbers game, so the secret is prospecting. So making sure that we're continuously meeting new people in order to offer our service to these people. Um, there's many books on prospecting, but at the end of the day, it's just whatever you're doing for marketing. So, for you, the podcast, you know, continuously making offers to these people so that they are connecting, becoming as the funnel and working their way into the funnel to the center, which is buying the service from you over a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So then that implies having a funnel. So how do we construct or otherwise, make a funnel?
So actually, funnel probably isn't the right word. I'm going to say sales process. I
Okay.
mean, the funnel can be if it's marketing, but we're just saying, once they come from your marketing, whether that's direct outreach to somebody on LinkedIn, whether that's somebody you met at an event, whether somebody came into contact with your podcast, as soon as you get a meeting with that person, then they're in the sales system. And the sales system that we use is a triage-based sales system. It's a triage, 3 parts. Part one is getting them is at a meeting just to set an appointment. So that could be a message, that could be a text message, that could be a phone call, just getting them into an appointment. So, getting them to set up a meeting. Okay, we've got a meeting booked, 30 minutes next Tuesday. Make sure they show up. So making sure they show up, getting reminders, getting them indoctrinated so that you're the person to talk to. So if they're coming from your podcast, they're probably already indoctrinated. They know that you're really good at what you do. But if they're coming from a cold lead, then they don't have a clue who you are. So you want to make sure that they at least know a little bit about you before they arrive. Then on that first call with them, the second part of the triage, it's all about them. So part of this system is making sure that you know what their situation is, and you know their business just as well as they do, and you know their problem just as well as they do, and you actually dive deep into the problem, because it's actually quite therapeutic, isn't it? It's like a coaching process. Part two is you're really talking to them and you're figuring out what's the biggest thing that's holding them back. And as well as it being mental, because for all of us it's something mental, there'll be something in their business which is the biggest lever that can be pulled straight away to to help them make more money. So that's number two. Once you finally got to the bottom of that and you've been through your script, because obviously everything here should be scripted because it's a system. And if you ever want to hire anyone to operate the system for you, it needs to be scripted. And especially you and me, because it's our system. We think we can deviate from the script. Deviating from the script, not a good idea.
100%. I just got to say on that, I had an inbound call the other day from a prospective client, and because it was inbound call, I wasn't in my usual sort of script. Normally, people apply for the system, they write in an application form. So, as I said, I've diagnosed some of the problems they've got, and I ask them aims, blocks, and current situation, ABCs as I call it. So you can turn it into some cheesy system, and I follow my template. And this inbound call, I didn't follow my template, and I was on the call for about 35 minutes, and I put the phone down. I thought, that felt like that person's going to go, yeah, thanks very much, and go and work with somebody else. Because I kind of,
Mm.
it just felt like the flow of the call was all wrong. And it's because I hadn't followed my own system. So I just wanted to say how true that is. As entrepreneurs, we like to create stuff. And that we're the last people who should be allowed on a call without a script, ironically, even though I wrote the script, right? How weird is that? So I just want to second that.
100%.
Yeah, weird, but true. Yes.
Thanks, Michael. Not
So
completely.
sorry,
So,
interrupted you completely. So we're on the second. So we've done the triage system. Love it, by the way. The outreach, appointment setting, the discovery, where you should not be allowed to deviate from the script. And then what's the third part of the the triage system?
once you get to the end of the discovery, you get an agreement from them. You're like, okay, is this everything? My favorite question to add at the end of the discovery call is always, is there anything else that I should be asking you? The best question, like always, because at the end of that, there's no chance of them going, oh, they're not going to be able to sell to, I'm not going to buy this because they didn't ask that. There's no excuse. So, is there anything I should be asking you? Okay, perfect, nothing. That only after that point, you tell them what services you have. So then they'll be asking, oh, right, so we've been through 20 minutes of my problems. What services you offer? We usually summarize very quickly. We do everything, basically, line by line. It takes about 2 minutes. Are you interested in us putting together a plan for, you to get from this result to that result? Because you know the results. You've been through the discovery call. They go, of course, because, they know you now, and also they their problem. And then you just need to get them into a presentation. So presentation, as with the discovery call, should be a pitch, not a proposal. I mean, you can do proposals if you want, but promoting a proposal is you sit at home twiddling your thumbs, unsure if they're ever going to come back. And it's kind of a very stressful and not very productive use of time, I see it as. And once you've done a pitch a few times, your pitch is going to be 85% the same for every single person. Because you know what you're doing, and Amazon, as we talked about with Seller Candy, is 85% the same for every single person. Different strategies and different pain points, and it's important that in the presentation you go through those strategies and those pain points, and they understand that this is their strategy. But you take them to the pitch. Pitch is kind of split into three parts. First part, defining the problem, getting them to agree that this is the problem. Second part, telling them about how you think you can solve the problem, how you're gonna solve the problem. And then part three is telling them how much it's going to cost. And at each one of those stages, you're kind of getting the okay from them, making sure that they're fully on board, that they understand what's happening, and that they don't have any questions. And at the end, you ask them if they want to move forward. And that's a very, very simplified version of the.
I was going to say, you make it sound so straightforward, but I mean, I guess in a sense, maybe it is. I mean, wow, I'm taking massively detailed notes here. I'm wondering whether we should just, rather than the blog post might be like infinitely long if we put all that stuff, I might just put some, offer it as a little sort of checklist of things. So what am I thinking here? Okay, what are my sort of objections from, not to your system, but like how would I mess this up is my question to myself, because it makes a lot of sense, and like you're living proof that it can be done. You're running like 5 different businesses at the same time on autopilot, so some more on autopilot than others.
Some definitely more on autopilot than
Oh,
others. So
no,
I would
yeah.
not overput that I'm not working 12 hours a day at the
No,
moment. I
no.
want to simplify this a bit.
Yeah, sure.
But I enjoy it, so it's just good.
Okay, so the first thing, let's dig a little bit more into the outreach side then. I mean, you're saying, okay, just reach out to people, podcasts, LinkedIn, and meeting an event and stuff. Presumably, since you believe in making it more systematic, you got a more systematic approach to how you find people. So how do we find people that way? What are your systems for finding people, for example, on LinkedIn or podcasts?
Oh, well, LinkedIn's great. LinkedIn worked really well for us in the past. So it depends really. All right, this depends on your budget and what you want to do. If you have some budget, I would use a LinkedIn agency, a good one. My wife, she used to work for, I'm going to plug somebody now for free, Lead Cookie. They're a good agency. I would use them if I didn't have a wife who used to work for them, who can basically do LinkedIn outreach, or could do until
Nice.
now. Now she doesn't want to do it anymore. So I'm
Right.
getting so I'm hiring somebody to do it in
Right.
house. But LinkedIn is great. Um, Cold email does work. For it all depends on your targeting and who your customer is. So for example, Amazon agencies, who is your ideal customer? Are you looking for big Amazon sellers, and is your pitch going to be some special service you can offer to these big Amazon sellers, like PPC? Are you looking for newbies and it's a setup project? Are you looking for funded companies? All these people will be in different places. So really it's figuring out, okay, who is actually my customer? Who's my ideal customer? What stage of the business they at? How much money they want to spend? And then kind of brainstorming a list of where they'll be, and then picking the best way to get there. I mean, one of the things which I really wanted to work and didn't work for this business, but will work for another business, is cold calling. Because you can hire amazing, high quality people to do cold calling, especially in the US. Like US based people, so much experience, 10 plus years experience in the industry, cold calling, because that's something they can do in their spare time. You can hire these people commission only, and this, if you can make it work, is an unbelievable source of income, because you can scale it. You can just hire more and more people. If you can get the prospect list right, then it's this is where you can scale extremely quickly. And I'm talking like 10 clients a month quickly, if you can figure out how to fulfill that stuff.
Wow.
And that's what I was super excited about. But for our prospects, we couldn't get a prospect list that worked for that. But it's always about testing. Testing, find one that works, and then double down on that one until you think you've got as much out of it as you can, then moving to the next one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know I'm not being particularly clear on this, but it really depends on who your ideal customer is and where they are.
I mean, I guess it's one of the issues you have. It strikes me as you're going to run an agency for agencies, and there could be any kind of digital agency that serves clients. I mean, I suppose in a way you've got less of a cookie cutter solution to offer, and I guess it has to be more a consultancy type thing, which means, John, your 12-hour days will continue for a while. But I can hear the.
Well, that's a bit different actually. So
yeah, go on.
What we're doing here, what we're doing with mass conversion marketing, is actually a stepping stone.
Okay.
So this is a limited offer. Actually, going to be a limited offer for as long as I want to do it, really, and as long as it's fun, because it's fun at the moment. I get to see the other people's agencies and how they work, and these amazing results they get for people.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's really good. But I don't necessarily want to do this forever. And what we're building a sales automation system. So we want to work with businesses who already have leads, and we build complete automation systems for them on the back end. So we have our own piece of software, and what that is it sets up, it's like a CRM for leads, so client management system, but through each stage it adds a full automation, and that's fully automated text messaging, voice calling, Facebook messaging, and email. So you can nurture, basically you can nurture 1,000 leads at the same time with personal contact. And that's what we're building in the back end, and that's what I've got my sales guy kind of working on at the moment. But at the same time, I'm super interested, and I've had this amazing skill set, and I enjoy working with different entrepreneurs, helping them scale. And where we fit really well is with people that have already got some traction. So, if somebody's already doing, 20K a month to 50K a month for their agency, they're doing well. But I find these people are super stressed a lot of the time because they're still selling month to month, or they're not sure on how they're converting people. They just kind of tell them how smart they are. They come in maybe warm, so they're easy to convert, but they'd have no way of converting cold leads and getting new business.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it?
They've got a budget to work with me, which is great.
And that's the thing. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say
right.
the experience that I've had, and this is at a kind of very tiny level compared to a lot of the people you'd be working with, but still, it's the people who really, if you like, indoctrinated, have been on your email list for ages and have been on listening to podcasts since day one. I know some people will literally listen to hundreds of episodes of a podcast if you'll give it to them, which I have, and I always say to those kind of get in touch, I'm like, that's very sweet, but that I wouldn't do that, that's too much. But those guys are easy to convert, but it's having a situation where you can actually, as you said, get cold traffic, warm them up, and have a sequence. That's when you can actually really scale, right? Because that's Yeah, that's the majority of the planet, obviously. So if you can find the qualified people who may need your service but haven't heard of you yet, don't know anything about you, or have heard of you but don't know much, then that's the secret to scaling. By the way, I just want to say I'm kind of amused and amazed to hear the word cold calling in 2020 when everyone's been so down on it for decades. Perry Marshall's books all railing against it. So tell me a bit more about how and why that actually works in 2020, and bearing in mind that people will be shouting GDPR. And now I know that
Mm,
that is necessarily a thing in this market, right?
right.
But tell me about that.
So we're concentrating on the US, but I think cold calling in Europe is still okay, business to business. So I mean, it depends on
Yes.
whose ethos you follow. So I've been reading a lot of sales books, obviously, recently. One I'm currently listening to, because I go to the gym, I listen to books.
Hmm.
It's called New Sales Simplified, and
Right.
it's all about there's the two ethos. It's a bit like politics in the US at the moment. Everyone's saying one thing, everyone's saying the complete opposite. Um, Basically, he's saying, cold calling is the secret to not a secret, is the still the way of connecting with people. People want to talk to people, and you want to connect with people. People are numb to the amount of email they get. They're numb to other things. I mean, maybe Twitter's a great way to reach out at the moment, Instagram, but otherwise, how are you going to get your service which helps this person in front of them? If you can't pick up the phone and call them. I'm not saying that I'm a great cold calling person. I've only ever done a few cold calls in my life, but I want to use this tool because I've seen some people at the moment getting amazing results through cold calling, especially if it's a service, not our service, not Amazon consultancy, but if it's a service that lends itself to brick and mortar businesses or to a business which has 3,000 to 5,000 of this type of business that you can get the number for in the US. I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed to succeed if you have an offer that they're going to want to buy, because you can just continuously outreach to these people. And even the guy who pushes no calling, what's it, Loud Rumor, the guy that runs Loud Rumor, he's got a really good video podcast. I can't remember his name now. Mark, I'm going to get his name. Mark, it's not Mark Levin, Mark something. Um, he says, he's all about this, using video podcasts to drum up business. In his talk, he says, at the start we were doing 290 cold calls a day. And I was like, well, great. I mean, it's great that you can use video to build your business, but even he says he was doing hundreds of cold calls a day. And the only reason they're doing hundreds of cold calls is they were so bad at it, because it's very hard to make 290 dials and have a conversation with somebody. So
Yeah.
and it's kind of this is kind of my, my ethos, my woo woo ethos about things in life is for me, I have to push myself further than I'm comfortable with in different situations, or I think everyone does, in order to know where our limits are. So maybe that's sending too much cold email to somebody and getting called a spammer. Maybe that's getting, an offensive response on doing something. Or maybe that's like putting like a heart and soul into a sales call and being like, we will deliver this thing for you, and this is how it's going to work. Just push ourselves as hard as, as far as humanly possible to know where we're comfortable. And I've actually grown a lot in the last year through doing that. I mean, I've known what I'm comfortable with, what I'm not comfortable with, what I will try again, what I won't do again. As long as I maintain my integrity, then I think I'm pretty happy to do that.
Yeah, interesting. There's a lot that goes into this stuff, and in the end, these sort of, I suppose, business ethics is not a fun or much talked about sort of side of things, but I think there is a part of us that has a view on it, and then has even more of a view. Let's be honest, a lot of people are worried not about their own ethics, but what other people will say to them. In other words,
Yeah,
getting
it's not
called a
ethics, is it?
scammer
It's
or a
worried about
spammer.
being judged. It's worried of judgment.
Exactly,
It's not
exactly. Now,
ethics.
yeah, exactly. And you need to differentiate between that. I mean, I find that sort of very educated people in, and this isn't necessarily a compliment, and that would include myself as well, that also have been in the corporate world or education for too long, actually will call something a moral issue when it is actually just fear, and they're not honest about it. Some of the people that I know that are more real entrepreneurs are more honest about the fact they don't want to get called a scammer, and then other people are just go completely mad and just chuck any kind of ethical considerations out the window and get called a scammer because they are. And there's that middle ground, which I guess is where you're trying to inhabit, where you're willing to push the envelope and get told you're horrible, but if you go too far, and obviously that is going too far, but you're willing to do that because you know in your heart of hearts what you're offering is a great solution for the client, which is different. I mean, I know somebody who sells some very dodgy stuff online that I think if they get called a scammer, they deserve it. There are only one or two people. I don't know many people like that. But some people, yeah, they have a great offer and they could genuinely help people, but they're just held back by fear. It's like it comes down to that old cliche, right? And it sounds like you're willing to put yourself into a position where you do something you're very uncomfortable with, which is a great way to grow.
Well,
You can't argue
and
with
I've
that.
definitely done things which I'm, like I've definitely, if I'm not feeling awkward and weird at least once a week, or that, then something I'm not growing is the way I see it. I'm not feeling like, I feel bad about the email. I got an email this week just that said, "You are a terrible marketer." It was like the title of the email. And I got another email, another response to the same sequence, like, "Let's have a chat."
Really
So,
funny.
you know, things come and go, and I think the people who are supposed to be there will be there. But I do believe in, I'm not saying I'm not scared before getting on a sales. Everyone gets the butterflies for a sales call,
Mm.
and I've done some awful sales calls, and I've made all mistakes in the book. And through coaching other people, I see their mistakes now, and I've launched some sales calls, and I'm like, no, I can. After you've done it a few times, you can see where the problem was, where the prospect fell off,
Yeah,
and it's great to be able to share that.
absolutely. And I
That's really
think
cool.
what you're saying, by the way, is I love the fact that it's very British advice. You got to feel it awkward at least once a week. I mean, if you most British people, you're going to feel awkward once a day traditionally. So I love that. That's a very British way of putting it.
Really
Americans would say something like, "You got to push yourself to the
shameful.
limit. You got to go 150%." Like, well, got to feel awkward at least once a week. You're doing the right thing. I think that's brilliant. I think it's absolutely the truth. You got to have a difficult conversation. And basically, another way that a business coach used to have put it, which is really also British, very British, used to say, look, if you are worried about a conversation, you probably need to have it. So pick the phone up. That is the one you need to have. That awkward conversation with somebody where if it works out, actually, the reason it's awkward is because you're worried about it. And the reason you're worried is because there's good upside potential. So in other words, if you get this client, it could be worth a lot of money. Then, okay, that's the call you're normally going to make, right? And that's always the awkward one in my experience.
No, that's totally true. Completely.
Yeah. So enough of my bad experiences. Tell me about the. We've talked about the. I'm just coming back to your really lovely triage system, which is nice and clear, which I'm now muddying by talking about bits of it. So we've got the outreach side. We've talked a bit about that. The discovery, figuring out the pain points. I think you've given us a lot about that one. Tell me a bit about the pitch side. I suppose that's probably the bit that people worry the most about. How do you do that? Is it just literally delivered on a phone call? Is it a Zoom call? Do you do like a mass webinar for everyone? How would you do that?
So the pitch is always a Zoom call, ideally with video, but definitely with screen share. Ideally video, definitely screen share. So people always do worry about the pitch, but we've been talking to one of my coaching clients this week, and I think we finally got it. Is the pitch is basically buying is an emotional decision, and the pitch is giving the person the evidence to validate the decision they've already made if they're going to buy from you, and they make that decision on the discovery call. And discovery call is where the pitch is made or broken, because at the start of the pitch you go through these are the goals we talked about on the previous call. Do you agree with these goals? And if they're not this person's goals, they're not going to own the solution you're going to present to them, and they're never going to close. So everything is like building blocks on top of the last one. And at any point during these building blocks, they say, this isn't for us, or you might as well just pull the pitch, because they're not going to convert. And if they don't believe this is the solution for them, they're not going to buy it, especially when they see at the end that it's $60,000. And because you haven't done a good enough job in the discovery call figuring out what their real pain is, how much it's worth to them, what their budget is, whether they have budget for this, who the decision makers are on the call, when their time frame is for they have to make this decision, who they're talking to. Like, there's all these questions that need to be answered on the discovery call, which lead to the pitch. And then the pitch is all about taking them through stage by stage through this. So defining the problem, they agree it's the problem, going through the solution, asking them if they can see how this solution fixes the problem, solves the problem. If that's all good, next step is basically, do you want to see how we can work together? Yes. Okay. How do you want to work together? Option 1 or option 2? which is the best option for you. And I'd say it sounds simple. It sounds simple like that. Doesn't mean that people don't fall off. Doesn't mean that internal decisions at the company don't matter. Don't It doesn't mean that I don't mess this up and there's another decision maker at different times, or I haven't finished. I didn't fully understand, or this person can't sign off on this decision even though they said they could in the past. Like I'd say, I still say 1 in 3 is a good close rate for pitching. But at the end of it, they should be excited and ready to go. And that's the idea that as long as you've gone through every single part, you built the building blocks one on top of another, then there's no reason that they should say no.
Interesting. So what's interesting to me is I had a job for about 5 months in my late 20s because I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I have mixed feelings about. I think there's some great wisdom mixed up with a lot of BS and some poor writing, to be frank. I'd say so. But Robert speaks very well of me. So anyway, but one of the things it did say that I thought was important is you need to get a sales job because sales is a core business capability. So I got myself a job selling double glazing, which is like a classic job. And a lot of the cliches and the horror stories about it are actually true. I have to say, do not let anyone into your house who says, I don't know if it still works this way. It's about 15 years ago now, maybe more. But one of the things that it really, really, really taught me is to go through a structured pitch and then to go through afterwards and deconstruct where I went wrong, because what you just said ties in so strongly with my experience in that very difficult job, which, by the way, I've never been afraid of a sales call since, which has been very useful. And I think the theory is part of it, as we've discussed. But there is a structure to these things, and they just made you sit down in the car afterwards and go through a little checklist and say, where did I kind of not they used to say close them on things, or where did they sort of fall out of the system? Because as you say, if they don't sort of go and tick each box all the way through, if they fall out of the system at some point, then it's game over. There's no point in worrying about it. So it's very interesting to hear that that's still the case. Also, 1 in 3 again was seen as a pretty good closing ratio in face-to-face sales, and that's pretty industry standard for decades. It's interesting how stable that is, even though you're selling something completely different. I think 1 in 10 on the phone and 1 in 3 in person has been an industry standard for sales for years, right? The one thing I wanted to really flag up, which I think you just said that is incredibly important, and I think this is my big takeaway, they actually make the decision to buy on the discovery call. In other words, when you think you're selling to them, they've already bought mentally. You're just kind of shoring up the sale, right? From what you're saying. I think that's genius insight, because I think that's true. And I've never heard anyone articulate it that way. So that could be, the core of your book on sales.
I'm pretty sure I stole that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that statement, I mean, not that it was more the sale on the discovery call, but that it's all an emotional decision that they're taken, that they're using your pitch to make a logical decision against, is Jordan Belfort, straight line system, Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes, I remember
Jordan
him,
Belfort. He's got some amazing videos on YouTube you should watch about the straight line system call,
yeah.
straight line system talk. I think there's about an hour and a half video, but there's the last 20 minutes or so he's explaining his system, and he's talking about, his whole, I believe, straight line is helping them to make the logical decision based on the emotional decision they've already made. And he's a master manipulator, and I'm not going to say sales is manipulation, but sales coaching, they're all types of helping people to make the smart choice and the choice that they should be making. Like, this product is going to make their life better, actually will. And if you believe that your product really is going to make their life better, make them more money, make them whatever it is, then it's our responsibility to help them to buy it. And we have to have that attitude. If we don't have that attitude, you can't sell anything.
No, absolutely. I think one of the things that this is interesting is circles back round to that sort of ethics as a polite version of fear. And I think a lot of the time people do feel bad about themselves for basically doing what is manipulation. Let's call it what it is. But the key is not the ability to sell, it's what you're selling, I think, is where the ethical question comes. Because obviously Jordan Belfort was jailed quite rightly for massive securities fraud, and that is the bit that's the problem. It's not the fact that he could sell well was a fantastic thing, it was just put to a bad use. And actually, being able to persuade people is kind of a little bit of a frightening skill in that it is so powerful. But every single business that succeeds ever has that built into its system. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. And so, therefore, I would say I think it's so critical that anyone's listening who's kind of objecting to this, or mentally having a problem with the idea of being good at persuading people, is don't worry about the ability to persuade. Worry about what it is you're selling them. If your product or service doesn't work, then that's the bit you should worry about, right? And if
Yeah,
you, for
completely.
example, if you're selling your abilities for your agency to help solve problems for clients that you have done so many times, you absolutely know cold you can help them, then there's no objection there. And then the sales thing and being good at persuading people is not a problem, right? So I think I just wanted to flag that up because I come across that quite a lot, and in myself as well. I have to fight this thing, even though I've done quite a lot of sales, and compared to most people are comfortable with it. I just think you have to differentiate between being great at selling and selling the wrong thing. And Jordan Belfort's an absolutely like the most crass example ever of the difference between the two,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, and
Amazing.
there's another thing. The thing that you were saying about people not wanting to do cold calls anymore and not phoning people.
Mm,
One of my mentors, who made a big impact on me, one of the stories he shares is like about about Vaynerchuk. You know, so pretty much everyone knows Gary Vaynerchuk,
yeah,
and you know he's the social media marketing guy.
yeah,
And he has an entire floor in his building dedicated to calling.
yeah.
So
That
you know
gives you a hint. Yeah,
he's got an entire phone team. Yeah, yeah. So you know, and he's doing deals with Coca-Cola for millions of dollars and all this kind of stuff, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So you know, everyone is doing it. It's you know, it's kind of it's easy to sell. You don't need to do calling anymore because calling is the scariest part.
yeah.
It's the bit which gives the most fear, the most shame when it goes wrong. You know,
Mm,
nobody wants to be rejected over and over again.
mm,
I mean, you know, people make it careers out of being rejected over and over again. If you like doing cold calling, like if you're an
yeah,
SDR, you set appointments, and you know it's paid well because people hate it.
yeah. Yeah, for
Um,
sure. And what you're saying also, I think it's important to flag up as well, is that if people are thinking, oh God, I don't want to do a bunch of cold calling. I mean, if there are people out there who've been doing it for 10 years and have, chops of iron for this and will do it on commission only, I mean, yes, you've got to adjust the script and they can probably give you feedback if they're expert at this stuff. But in the end, you can hire that expertise, right? And if it's so effective
for sure.
and it's commission only, then that's a win-win for sure.
Yeah, you just have to have an offer that's going to work for that. So actually, I want to experiment with that. We're going to put out another ad for SDR next week, not for Amazon,
Mm,
but for some other stuff we're doing, just to test it and have some fun with it. Because I believe that part of our future sales system is going to be cold calling
mm.
because it's so powerful. It's a powerful way to connect with people.
Wow, how interesting. This is not where I'd have expected any sales conversation to go in 2020 on a sales conversation, but conversation about sales, I mean.
Mm.
How interesting. So just to sort of wrap this up then, so just two things that you've got. One you've got coming up in the future, and one is an offer that is available now, as I understand. So what's coming up, just to recap, you've got a sales automation system, like a CRM for leads, but fully automated messaging, emails, text, Facebook Messenger. That sounds like, the version of what you're talking about on steroids. But before that, you've got a digital agency offer at massconversionmarketing.com. By the way, that's has sort of shades of Frank Kern. I love it. It's
MCM.
yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that and who it's for, and how people can get in touch if they want to.
So I mean, this isn't off. This isn't an offer that's up anywhere,
Okay.
because I've only been doing this with a select few agency owners who I know who
Okay.
come to
Right.
me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know yet whether we're going to go public with this offer or not, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So maybe we will. But what it is basically a done with you sales system. So taking your average sale for your agency from whatever you are now, usually month to month, 5 to 10K, to 50 to 100K. So selling longer programs, putting in the system, the triage system that we just talked about, and basically done with you. So that at the end of it, you understand how this works. We've done a pitches together. We've got your pitch. We've got all your scripts, and that you have a functional sales system that you can go away and teach somebody else to do for you for your business. So it's not like I'm coming in and I'm doing sales for you. It is very much someone else doing the work. But yeah, at the end of it, you'll basically be able to do what it took me over a year and a half of messing around in my agency before we really hit what sales actually is and how it works. Because we were too also concentrating on the operations, letting warm lead referrals come in, and it sucked. No, just for me, it sucked anyway, because we were mildly profitable, and I was very stressed.
You've just put in an essence what a lot of us experience, I think, like mildly profitable and very stressed. So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess you're going to go from mildly profitable to very stressed. From wildly profitable and mildly stressed would be an upside, wouldn't it, compared to that? And by the way, that's
Mm-hmm.
such a British sounding pitch. Mildly stressed and wildly profitable. So in other words, so what are you offering people here? You say you're not actually, there's not actually a public offer. Is there should people
Yeah, so people
consider
just drop
getting
me
in
an
touch with
email.
you? So drop you an
Yeah,
email.
so
Okay, fine.
people drop me an email, which is john@massconversionmarketing.com.
Okay.
And basically we'll jump on a call, see if see if it would work for you.
Hmm.
And I will pitch you. No, I'll talk to you about it and we'll see if it's right.
Yeah,
It's
see
not
if
going
it's
to
good
be the
fit.
same kind of pitch. I've got no deck for it. It's going to be basically us talking about it, seeing if it would fit your business, seeing what
Yeah,
you're currently doing, seeing if you're doing enough revenue. Because we can do the best if you're doing 20 to 50K already a month in revenue, because we just need to pull a few levers, and suddenly you can double your revenue just by
yeah.
signing up your next clients on 12-month deals and really pricing it right.
Hmm.
Because lots of people are pricing too low.
Yeah,
So we just pull a few
absolutely.
of those levers and make more money, which is most exciting for me. And I like to see immediate ROI for clients
Yeah.
because it's more fun and more fun that way, isn't it?
Absolutely, and the nice thing about selling sales is another business coach of mine used to put it, it's selling money at a discount, and the more you
Mm.
can get an ROI and a quick one, then the easier it is for your client to justify the sale. So weirdly enough, you can sell a sales system to people for more money than other things, and people can justify it more easily and make the sale more easily as well. So fingers crossed that works out for you. So there is a website that people can check out, by the way. It's not so behind closed doors that nobody can see it. It's massconversionmarketing.com, which I've had a look
Mm-hmm.
at. So people can have a butcher's at that. And
Have a
then
butcher's.
a butcher's. I was just thinking like that's so. Yeah, that means a butcher's hook, a look. By the way, for America's listening,
Oh, really? I
apparently,
didn't even know. I never knew that it meant that. I've,
yeah,
I've heard have a butcher's a million times, but I've
yeah,
never.
Cockney rhyming
Never.
slang, butcher's hook, look, yeah, like a whistling flute suit. Anyway, so for the Americans listening, we'll stop speaking British jargon and bring it back home here. So, um, first of all, this is fascinating stuff. I think it's very, very interesting to talk through sales because in the end, we're all in business of sales one way or the other. But as soon as you go outside the business to consumer physical widget selling thing, then you're in the business of sales where, gasp, you might need to speak to a human being. And it's very interesting to come back to that old school and yet powerful set of skills that's been around for decades. And in the end, I have to say, I trust things that are a maybe digitized, maybe systematized version of proven over decades, even centuries, human interactions, because I think that's more likely to last into the future as opposed to the latest sort of hacks, which can disappear in about 3 months.
Mm.
So, hopefully this is going to be really evergreen content, which is great because creating a lot of content here, it's lovely to think it will be of value in the future. So, John, really great stuff. Um, Thank you very, very much for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me again, Michael.